Julie, all right?
Good, how are you?
We're all right. We're legitimate.
I can find mine. I know where.
Al's got the power.
You know, that's what everybody started thinking after. Right, yeah, it really ties it together better. And it's, Keith built a platform underneath there. We had a 4x5 sheet of plywood, and it's plenty big, and so it sticks on there, and then he's got a support here and here, and
It really looks nice.
yeah, and it's very sturdy, better than over there. It's like, there we had to tie it up. Good.
Yeah. I'm getting my knee replaced next on the 22nd. Going in. They don't cancel it because of COVID, because I got to have it done at the hospital. So they won't let me do it out at OSI.
They doing just one, Rick, or are you doing one or both?
Just the one.
Just the one?
Yep, this one's good. Yeah.
Now I understand why you wanted me to do this.
All right, good evening, everybody. I've got 6:30 on my watch. We will call the meeting to order. Pastor's going to open us with a prayer.
All right, we'll begin with prayer. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to have navigated to the end of 2020. It's been a year of twists and turns, and yet you've been a God who've blessed your church throughout the midst of all of it. Help us as we take a look back at the year and then look forward to the year to come, to continue to trust in your almighty power and mercy to do all things for the good of your church. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. And just to note, a couple of you had asked me about Pastor Kuski, who maybe saw in the email. He'd been diagnosed with COVID. He's doing well. He doesn't have any real serious symptoms or anything like that. He will be. He also was very cautious, and I think because of some of the measures we take here, there wasn't anybody that was deemed close contact from him, except for maybe his wife. So keep Lynn in your prayers. But I think doing well and everything like that. So, but keep him in your prayers as kind of deal with that reality of life right now. So.
Thank you, Pastor. Next on the agenda is just some comments. Does everybody have one of the sheets up here? Particularly the number sheet and also the minutes, as well as the agenda, I guess, and an election ballot. Everybody covered? Okay. And then don't forget, if you haven't already, to sign one of the sheets before you leave today. With that, we're going to turn it over to Jim, and he's going to take us through the proposed budget for 2021. And we'll turn it over to Jim.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's excited about this. This is the budget, right? This is the big one. All right. I get some thumbs up. All right. Okay, so, talk about, the 2021 budget, and I guess we'll go right into the presentation. First one is, definition of a budget. This probably might not be on everybody's mind as much as it has mine for the last 4 months, so I just thought I'd remind everyone what a budget is. It's an estimate of the income and expenses that we're gonna run next year, that guess at income and we guess at expenses. If you want to go to the next slide then, okay, this, yeah, no, this is good, this is good. Just the purpose of the budget is part of our ministry plan to guide us how much we plan to spend and prevent us from spending too much. As you know, maybe the council is limited to how much money we can spend over the budget, okay? I think it's $5,000 before we have to come back to the voters for approval. Okay, next one is, I put a little bit about restricted funds, and some funds that we get are only available for certain items, but it's never been a problem. If we have too much money for a given expense, then we have to bring that to the voters also. So you don't need to worry about, how much money you have for what, from what thing, okay? Just the total numbers are what matter for tonight, okay? The next one is, income appears, any income that we can guess appears in the budget, and next, expenses, that we made the best guess we can at expenses, and, all right, pass-through expenses are, that does not appear in the budget. That would be expenses that are directly for other ministries, mission partners, FVL, and Synod. And again, the annual numbers are what we approve here, and I'm allowed to fiddle with the monthly numbers and quarterly numbers so that I can make some sense during the year. Okay, next thing, okay. How does the budget process work? I'll go through that a little bit. It doesn't just appear. Back in August, September timeframe, the elders present their expected expenses to the committee. The committee is where, in September, October, is where all the work gets done, the vast majority of it on the budget. This year we had quite a bit to do, and I got to take the time to thank the budget committee members at this time. Sandy Borkart did a report on tuition. Deb Jacqueline rearranged the spreadsheet, the budget spreadsheet for me. Scott Stillman did a report on past giving for special projects, and Sue did a whole lot of work on everything. And of course, Rick helps us out with the payroll. Let's see, I think I got everybody on the committee, okay. They did a lot of work, and I really applaud them for that. So I wanted to thank everybody for that. And now, see, was there a drum roll on there? No, we're not ready for that yet. Okay, a fact check here. You can find that the numbers I'm presenting tonight don't exactly match what I told you in 2021, because I've changed a little bit about the, it's a $4,500, a little over $4,000 in utilities expenses. I just put them in there. It's what Pillars pays us for utilities, and I put it in as income. And I also put it in as expenses, so we have higher income and higher expenses. I understand this better. There was nothing wrong with what we did before, but it was, the numbers, they won't match last year's that I sent out last year, but the calculations are all the same for 2020 and 2021, so you won't have to make any adjustments. Okay, that's it. Just a little fact check. Now we have the drum roll, or do we? No drum roll? Okay, all right. So this is the big one here, the one that everybody's been waiting for. This is the council's recommended bottom line. We put a deficit budget together, as you can see, and we'll get into why we're doing that a little bit, but we anticipate a rise in expenses next year, and we're also anticipating a rise in income. This year, the budgeted numbers were $458,000. Again, that's adjusted. I said $454 last year, but $458,000 is what you'd compare both those numbers to for 2020, okay? So I think that, if you go to the next slide, I think we owe it to the voters to explain why we think we need to spend more money next year. It's a substantial amount. It's about, what is it, almost $25,000. And you can see here that the biggest hitters are the youth discipleship, properties, and outside ministries. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We'll be able to look at this later. I have this at the end of the presentation to ask questions about, okay? The recommended spending level we had is $483,000, okay? And, all right, I'm going through the reasons here. Big increase in tuition, okay? And I'm gonna get into the reasons for that. Significant increase in outside ministries, all right? The congregation, the feedback we're getting from the congregation is that we cut back too much on our Wells and FEL giving, so we've increased that quite a bit this year. The properties budget, I'm gonna explain each of these as we go on. So I got a slide on at least the tuition assistance and properties. I'm not sure about, I think I have one for each of them. What's the last one is, what's the next slide? What's that? Okay, there, oh, tuition policy, there we go, okay. So this is, I don't know if this is exactly established or not, but this is what we're going with for a recommendation for next year. We took the average tuition from the area schools, okay, and we recommend, this was originally I had to change the word committee to budget, to council at the last minute. It's the council's recommendation now that we set a tuition at 65% of that average. So 65% of the average tuition is the maximum that we would pay, okay? And parents would pay the member tuition and the amount over the basis. So let's say it's, I don't know, $10,000 for tuition. That's not how it is, but I remember that $6,500 is the maximum we would pay. That if it actually is $10,000, the parents would have to pay the $3,500 plus whatever the member rate is. Okay. Next slide should show what that means. The survey, 4,835 was the average of all the tuitions at the schools at the local schools. Okay. 65% of that is 3,143. That's the maximum amount that we would hold ourselves accountable for as a church, okay? By comparison, in 2020, the maximum was about $2,800. So it's a 10% increase. We haven't revisited this in a number of years, okay? So 10% is less than what some would have liked, and I appreciate that, but this is what we thought we could. But it's still a pretty hefty increase, and we have more students next year too. And this is good news, right? We have more kids in our church congregation, so you have to remember the blessing of this. So so the total tuition for 2021, $23,642, and the budget for 2020 was $10,000. So that is easily the biggest change in our budget next year. Why we think we need to spend more money, okay? All right, the next one, outside ministries, is, okay, we added $3,000 to Wells and $3,000 to FVL, which would make us at, I think, $15,000 for each of them. And we'll look at the numbers in a minute. What was that? $15,000 for each of them. Then there's $300 for, what's the local group called? Wells United, I think it is. But the feedback we got from the congregation was that we cut too much from them. So we are putting that in. And all right. The next one is properties. This was, again, this was another one of the things that the committee looked into this last year. And we found that our numbers were probably off for this year. We budgeted $22,000 roughly, and this is not a confusion with the Pillars money, okay? This is a separate issue. The actual amount that we're paying from when you add up the utility bills from 2019 was closer to $26,000. Okay, so we looked at all those numbers and decided to raise that amount of utilities bills. So that's where we're at. Okay. Then finally, payroll is not changing very much this year due to kind of a quirk in our system. There's a 2% raise for all of our workers, as usual. And don't say as usual. There's no usual. Because of one of the pastors' health insurance situation, we're saving some money on that, and so that ends up being approximately a wash this year. That is, we're not guaranteed that that's sustainable. Okay, we don't know what it's going to be like in 2022, but that's what it is for next year. Okay, pension fund was no change. Health insurance said about the lower, and there's no change in the housing allowance. I think that covers pretty much everything with the pastor's salary. Okay. The next thing we're talking about is where the money's coming from. Okay. Foundation operation endowment, I started with that number. That one I'm sure of. The foundation voted on that number, and none of the rest of them in this whole presentation are as solid as that. They'll pay that sometime as soon as I get a requisition in for it next year. The council, not me. Okay. So Pillars income is 15.8% of our utilities. That's our standard policy. That's what we charge them. Of course, that's all dependent on our guess of what the utilities income are. Duplex rental, that's $1,200 a month, 2 $600 apartments for 12 months. Obviously, a vacancy could reduce that. All right. Facilities income, we did our best to estimate how much we're going to get for rental. Then the next one is $2,000 from the benevolence funds we have in our savings account. That money was given for benevolence, and we're making an effort to use it, okay, for benevolence next year. So we submitted that as one of the incomes for next year, okay? Now this one here, the next one is foundation and ministry and evangelism money, okay? Foundation, ministry, and evangelism. All right, we, this year, we've been doing well as far as income goes, or we were at the end of November at least. And so what we want to do, we have not asked the foundation for some money that we had in the budget for this year, the ministry and evangelism, to pay for pastors' salaries, okay? And so what we're recommending is that we roll the full $18,500 that's available over into 2021 as part of our budget, okay? Weekly offerings, we're predicting that it's gonna go up $12,000 next year. I'll show you this chart, again, that's a prediction of the future. That's probably the number I'm least sure of. Scrip income, again, now that's gonna be down because scrip is down. By the way, this would be a great time to think about buying more scrip if you're not doing it already. You get a discount and the church gets money at the same time. So put in my pitch for scrip. I actually brought my checkbook in, but nobody's here to. I plan to buy some on Thursday. And so our total income is $471,000, a little bit more than that. Okay, that's the next slide shows the total revenue revenue comparison from 2020 to 2021. They are apples to apples, okay? So if I added money in this year for a different calculation, I went and redid it in 2021, and there's only one thing, is properties. So well, again, for questions, we'll have this available at the end, to this whole slide. I'm sure you probably can't all absorb all these numbers in one showing here. Okay, so let's go to the next one, the trends in giving. Is that, next, is that right? Yeah, okay. I've got this slide basically twice, but the first one shows the kind of a flat curve. If you look at it, on the big picture there, it's a little, you can see it's rising a little bit according to the trend line. And the next one is zoomed in. I cut off the bottom of the chart, and so you can at least see what the trend is, okay? Slightly upward, and you can criticize that graph very well, but especially that one because it's got the bottom cut off of it. But, you know, it's the same method as I used last year, and was it right? I won't know that until January, but it's our best guess. So that's where we're at, okay? Next one, I think I already talked about this. I covered this, that we planned to roll money over into from the foundation. So I did that out of order. Okay, the next to this isn't all that interesting. The script and Thrive and Choice, I did that last year. There's a blank slide because I needed to make that for the handouts. Thanks, okay? Then nice graphic to show the comparisons are, there's actually enough, I put them side by side because you can actually see a difference between these 2 years. It's unusual that the expenses would actually be visible, but youth discipleship is the biggest change. So the blue pie chart there, and then outside ministries increased and properties. Most of our money is still going to payroll. That doesn't change, right? That's our biggest expense as a church. All right, budgeted income on the next slide is, that hasn't changed much, so I didn't put a comparison on it. It's, our offerings are what pay for the church. We get some money from elsewhere. The second biggest fund is foundation, and then after that is the duplex. But the biggest thing is your offerings that you're giving, okay? That was it. I left room here for questions, and then if, I don't know what else to talk about. I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have. Yes, Pat, that was first.
Could you back up a few slides? I just want to review some of the foundation numbers.
Okay, can you go back to the foundation slide? Figures the first question I get is the one I didn't anticipate. We had in our budget spreadsheet, we had put 16,711 in the budget, okay? For 2020, yeah, okay. We didn't, but the foundation still had the 18,850 according to the last month.
16,711 never paid out.
No, it was not. We never asked for that because we've been getting a lot of contributions this year.
So you're looking to roll over the dollars still remaining from 2020
Yes,
into 2021?
yeah.
The foundation will have to get a request from you on that, and we'll have to vote on that.
Okay.
I don't know how that affects your adopting the budget, because that's.
Well, we put that in there, and I think the voters, if the voters decide that, then we'll have to get that request to you guys. Okay, yes? Again, my best guess is that we're on budget, but we were at the end of November, okay, we had about a $20,000 deficit, but December is our biggest giving month, okay? So if December this year is a lot like December's in previous years, then we'll be on for a balanced budget for this year. Of course, I don't know why I would believe that December would be like any other month. Let's see. I think January was like January of the previous year. Okay. All right. Anything else? Pastor?
Normally, when you put out a budget like this, there's people nitpicking it or having problems with it. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to say thank you to the budget committee and to the council and everybody who went through this, because I'm very pleased to see that increase in outside ministries. Because I was really disappointed last year that we had to do that and made that decision, but at the same time, it's nice to see that that was a priority, and clearly it is the budget. And I'm thankful that everybody decided to accomplish that. And I'm thankful and hopeful that the congregation will go with that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. There was, I don't know if they can hear that on the YouTube, Pastor Milky was thanking the committee and the council for recommending the increase, especially in the outside ministries. Okay, yes, Pat?
If I could just add to that, the foundation recently, through working with the council, I'm going to paraphrase here, but we rolled some leftover money from 2019.
Yeah, good point.
Budget that was not used out of the foundation allocation and split it between FPL and Synod, so they both got a little over $2,000 apiece extra
Yeah.
from the foundation. Very good.
Yeah, again, I'll repeat what you just said. The council voted and the foundation approved a request for some additional money that we had left over, a little over $2,000 each for FVL and for Synod that we did not anticipate being able to do last year. We're pleased to be able to do that. Okay.
The other thing that maybe needs just a little bit of, maybe some additional explanation, I think, is around the tuition. And we saw a large increase in tuition. I think the biggest increase in all the budget numbers we had was tuition, wasn't it?
That's half of everything, yeah.
That's half of it. And, you know, over the last several years, we haven't made any adjustments to those tuition numbers, even though tuition keeps going up. You know, up in the real world, St. Matthew's just kind of stayed the same and used the same tuition number every year. Well, so we're playing a little bit of catch up is what we are. And hopefully going forward, we won't allow that to happen again, you know, where we kind of skip a couple of years and all of a sudden it kind of builds up on you and you need to make an adjustment. Hopefully we'll look at that every year and then it becomes more gradual and then it's not just one big giant jump for us. If we would have been doing this, it would have been a little bit more gradual over the years. But, we figured that we really need to stay at that point where, you know, we're truly supporting Christian education, and that's where we need to get to. And that's why we see kind of a big jump in it this year. It's a little bit of a catch-up year. Yeah.
What's the question? Oh, yeah. It's not even close. It's overused this year. Can you, there you go.
Just one more quick thing on that same idea of the tuition, and I think it's important that everybody realizes too that even though that doesn't cover maybe all of the tuition above a member's rate for a family, we do have an opportunity for families to apply for tuition assistance beyond that. So, you know, we are trying to help our members to be able to afford Christian education. That's really, I think, when we closed our school, was one of the promises we made to ourselves that we were going to continue to support families who wanted to have their children in Christian education grade schools.
Pastor?
If a student has state tuition assistance, they don't get the money.
No, they do not. And we encourage parents to apply for the school choice money. It really helps out a lot. And we have a couple people doing, I don't know how many are getting choice money, but there's school choice money. We have two different words that we use choice for, two different ones. school choice funds. We really appreciate that. Okay, Ken, don't you have any questions? He has a question. Okay. All right. All right, everybody good? Okay,
Just to verify, Ben, so from the foundation,
yeah,
you're asking to roll in the unused 2020 numbers for both mission, ministry, and evangelism.
yes,
But you have not included anything in your budget for 2021 ministry and evangelism dollars.
that's correct.
You have operational money, but nothing from the other two.
That is correct. We,
Be off the side.
yeah, we want to leave that for ministry projects, the traditional way we've used the foundation. We don't want to rely, we don't want to park our deficit in the foundation's lap, is where we're going with that. Okay, so on behalf of the council, I'm asking you to approve this budget. Okay, or it will be later today, okay.
All right, that was the item that we had under the forum discussion, I guess. And if there aren't any more questions from Jim, then we're going to close the forum and move to the voters' meeting, okay? So no more questions for Jim? Okay, the forum is closed, and we will open the voters' meeting and call that to order. And then if we move down on the agenda, the first thing on the agenda is, well, I guess the second thing on the agenda is to vote to approve the minutes from our October 27th meeting. Hopefully you had a chance to grab that and just kind of cruise through it a little bit and see if there's anything that jumps out at you that needs comment. That would be the yellow sheet, if everybody's got that. If there are no comments or changes that need to be made, I would welcome a motion. Pastor Hilke.
Number 8, I don't know if this is a typo or not, but Pat's name is Harbat. What do you think?
Item number 8, Pat Harbath is spelled wrong.
A-R.
Yeah, B-A-T-H. Yep. Okay. Anything else that anybody's noticed? If not, again, I would entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
I've got a motion, I've got a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, then the next thing on the agenda is election of council and foundation officers. And that would be the white sheet. We will use the white sheet as the ballot as well, but just to run through the names on the ballot, of course, myself, in the position of president running. And then for elders, we've got Brad Thurn and Troy Wendt. And then under the foundation board, Rick Barber was running as an incumbent, Ken Youngworth, and Craig Johnson. So our nominating committee is talked to all of these individuals, and they are willing to serve. So those are the names on the ballot. Now, a couple of things to point out as we go forward here. We're going to vote for one in each one of those categories, and I think the way we're going to do this is just to circle it, okay? So in the case of myself, that's pretty easy, circle it, unless, of course, we're going to call for nominations from the floor as well, but also in the case of the elders, you're going to circle only one of those two, and in the case of the foundation, you're looking only circle one of those three. Okay, just to make that clear for everybody. All right, any questions on that? All right, I am going to call for nominations from the floor. And I'm going to do it 3 times. Of course, there's a couple of points to be made down there. Voting, the person in nomination must be present. They also have to have a second, and they also have to be willing to serve. So there's like 3 criteria to that. So with that, I'll make a call. Are there any nominations from the floor for any of the positions listed above? Again, are there any nominations from the floor? And for the 3rd time, are there any nominations from the floor? Okay, it should be noted that there are none. Do we have to accept these? Or vote to accept these? Pardon?
Move to close the nominations and to accept the election, the slate of candidates.
Okay, so we've got close the nominations. We have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. All right, so with that, please go ahead and use this as your ballot. Hopefully you got a pen or pencil. We don't have any in the pews. Does anybody need a pen or a pencil? Do we have people on Facebook? Oh, really? Okay. All right, if a couple people can spend some time and count those ballots, that would be great. Okay. Got 17 signed in. Anybody didn't sign in? Al, there's 17 signed in on the sheet here. Okay. Thank you. I forgot, I guess we do have some people on either YouTube or Facebook. We've got like 9 people that have joined us on YouTube or Facebook, so. This is probably where we should flood them with absentee ballots. Stop the counting, we've got some absentee ballots. probably scary, but you tell you I've taken up solo lessons again now.
They could have to call people.
Yep,
We have 16 ballots.
somebody didn't turn in a ballot?
Is there anybody that we missed? Want to ask if we missed anybody's ballot?
Did we miss anybody's ballot? Anybody still got their ballot?
Did you vote?
I voted, yep. Nobody voted twice, obviously. All right.
Pastor Olson, is he visible?
He's not. All right, the results are this. And I'll just run through as to who has been voted into these positions. As president, myself, Richard Kennedy. As elder, Troy Wendt. And then as foundation board, Rick Barber. So again, myself in the role of president, Troy Wendt to pick up a role as elder, and Rick Barber to serve another term as a member of the foundation board. Okay, what do we need to do? Ben?
Move to destroy the ballots.
Okay, we've got a motion to destroy the ballots, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay. That's good. All right, then the next thing on the agenda here is vote on the budget for 2021. Okay, Jim presented it here. Is there any other questions related to it at this point, Pat?
I think we have a procedural issue. The budget has dollars from the foundation that have not been approved by the foundation.
Yep.
Formally, for the purpose for which it is. The bylaws seem to allow the use of ministry dollars for support of salaries, but we're bringing money from 2020 into 2021, which is pretty much, as the way I see it, is at the discretion of the foundation board, that in general spirit, if not law, the money's not used in the year it's allowed, it goes back into the foundation. Now, I think with what's happened this year, foundation is our reasonable guys and understand that a lot of that money was not needed this year because of what transpired with the virus.
Mm-hmm.
But, and maybe Ken could add to this, but I wonder if the voters can make the determination to allow the foundation or to say supersede, and not that we wouldn't, but you're about to adopt something that hasn't been formally approved. That's, I guess, my thought. And it may be approved and we would go forward just like it, but I don't want to get you guys into something here and then later we get into some kind of a.
Yeah, I'm hearing the discussion. Did you hear the discussion? Okay. I don't know what we did last year, because we did something similar last year, didn't we? We would have had to approve the budget before we approved foundation dollars. And I don't know what our procedure was last year, but certainly we would have approved the budget before we approved the foundation dollars, because otherwise we wouldn't have the cart before, and we'd have the cart before the horse.
I recall us doing that, I don't remember.
Yeah.
The
You know, the only difference I see this year is we're not looking at 2021 dollars we use, we're looking to roll the dollars from 2020 into 2021, all right?
Right.
So we're not looking to use the new dollars that you
maybe approve the budget conditionally, or maybe a separate vote needs to be taken by the voters to dictate to the foundation board that this is what they would like to see happen, just so that there's a mechanism there. I don't want to be a stickler, but I see an issue.
Yeah.
Just reason.
Thoughts, Pastor? It would seem that an amendment to accepting the budget would be in order to say, we recommend, or however you want to word it, that the foundation approve these funds from 2020 to be used in 2021. And then, if that passes, then we would pass the budget. Because ultimately, as I understand it, the voters have authority over the foundation board and the foundation funds. And we're not talking about doing anything outside of the Constitution, really.
Right.
What we're doing is just wanting to assure that those funds are going to be there.
Right.
So, and they are money that was earmarked for this year, so that just wasn't used, so it's not.
Right. The funds, the 18,000, whatever that we're talking about, was actually approved for congregational use in our budget, although we didn't use it, but I'm going to say it was approved to be used in the budget. We're just looking to move it from 2020 and carry it forward into 2021. I think that's where it becomes a question. In my mind, it says it's already been approved for use for what we intend to use it for, which is to cover pastoral salaries.
The ministry puts certain,
Yep.
which is the lion's share.
Right.
I don't know if there's anything in the bylaws that dictates that the money goes back. I know there was some discussion about maybe that because we had this very issue recently. I don't necessarily have the answer.
Thoughts?
After the last council meeting, I looked through the foundation bylaws. I could not find specifically where it said any unused money is put back into the foundation. I'm thinking that that was an adopted policy verbally that if, well, the money's not going to be used, we're not going to leave it sitting out there because it may not be used again. So we'll put it back into the foundation because it was unused. And there was no foreseen instance when we would use it in that year. But the following year it wasn't needed because it had the same or more than first year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was more of a, well, what are we going to do with this? Well, if we're tracking, let's put it back in foundation.
Right.
And I don't really recall, like I said, I looked through it and I was kind of, that's interesting. I couldn't find any words specifically stating that.
I would concur. I do not see it specifically addressed. I guess it's been a practice, but is it?
Yeah, I would say it has been the practice because we've already just rolled $4,000 over from 2019, right, into 2020 in order to make up some of the shortfalls that we had in our budget for FEL and Wells. So, I mean, that was a roll forward. So, I mean, I think the precedence has been set. And if, in fact, there is nothing worded in the bylaws, what would, and the dollars have already, in fact, been approved for use in 2020, we're just shifting those dollars forward into 2021. Ken?
If you have the instance where those funds are not being needed for 2021 and would not be requested to be rolled over, well then of course it would go back to the foundation, would just be sitting out there in the fund in a checkbook or something.
Yeah. Yep. I think we recognize that if we don't use dollars or don't need dollars, that they're more powerful rolled back into, where they can work for us rather than sitting in a bank account someplace. So, any other thoughts? Are we in a dilemma or not? Are we not in a dilemma?
Well, the budget is a proposed plan.
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yep.
That money is no more guaranteed than an operating number, so
Yeah,
perhaps you approve the budget the way it is.
that's kind of where my mind's at, is we approve the budget, and if for some strange reason the foundation would say, no, we're not going to do that, well, I guess we'd bring that back to the voters then. So. Pardon? Yeah, or impeach me. Please. Okay, so with that, any other questions or comments? All right, so we're going to go forward and we're going to look, I guess I would entertain a motion to accept the budget as presented by Jim and as endorsed by your council. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Okay, the budget is approved. Next on the agenda is a motion to adjourn. Got a motion to adjourn, I've got a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. Pastor, can you help us with a closing prayer?
Thanks for coming. I think it's just maybe something to note. It's the amazing, the amazing blessings God's given us over the last year. That we were able to pretty much make budget in a year where we didn't have services for, how long was that? Like 5-6 weeks? Where we've had a fraction of our normal membership be able to be in church. The ministry opportunities we had just today, as I was getting ready for the meeting, I had one member texting me about how excited he was because he's invited several of his friends to come for Christmas. He thinks they're going to come. I had another person who contacted me from Pillars because they wanted to do a Bible study this afternoon. So I sat down with someone and got to share Jesus with that person. Amazing amount of opportunities we have at St. Matthew, a lot of potential. And I just think it's interesting to look at those. And you remember what Jesus, the mustard seed is this small thing and it turns into this big thing, right? And, we're looking at the seeds and who knows how God uses the gospel we share. There's eternal results there. So, what an awesome thing we have a chance to be a part of. Special thank you to Al, who has been on council probably longer than I've been a pastor. So, thanks for all the ways you've served us over the years. And thank you to thank you to everyone else who was elected is willing to serve in our leadership. Is there anyone else that's out of office? I think that. Yeah, so I think it was just Al. So, but thanks for all your service, for all of you who are willing to step up and serve, for all of you who have served for so long. It's certainly the Lord uses that to bless His kingdom. So, why don't we close with prayer? Lord, as we near the season of Christmas and have the opportunity to celebrate your incarnation, your coming in the flesh, help us to remember the great mercies that you showed to us then and show to us even today. That you're a God who's not only present everywhere, but is here with His church, among us, where 2 or 3 gather together. Bless the work we carry out in 2021 and use it to further the best interests of your kingdom. Fill us with zeal to carry out this work and bless our efforts. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.